Greetings to you all. I welcome you to the class 11th English. Today we are going to see a beautiful poem from Unit 2. Confessions of a Born Spectator by Ogden Nash. Confessions. Telling from the heart. Accepting oneself from the heart. Accepts oneself what he has done. That is the meaning of confessions. Spectator. Spectator means audience. Here the writer himself is a spectator. If you take any game, what do you like to be? Either the player or the spectator. What do you decide? Many of us would like to be a player whatsoever the games. We like to participate in it. But here, the poet likes to be a spectator rather than a player. Of course, not everybody loves to play and participate in games, sports, and other extracurricular activities. Some of us wish to be mere spectators alone. Being a spectator, the writer conveys something about the speciality of the spectator through this poem, and he avoids to be a player. From his opinion, what are the activities can be done a player in an arena, in the ground, and what can a spectator do even at the stadium? He says a spectator alone can enjoy a complete spirits of the game till the end rather than a player. Let us see his intention being a spectator rather than a player. So that is what the poem. Let us see. And before going for it, let us see about the poet Ogden Nash. He was born on August 1902 and died on 19 May in the year 1971. He was an American poet well known for his light verse. Light verse in the sense, his lines are very easy and simple words to be written in order to understand easily. And of course, with that, he wrote 500 pieces. With his unconventional rhyming schemes, he was declared the country's best known producer of humorous poetry. Humorous in the sense comedy. His light verse even earned him a place on a postage stamp. So this is what the speciality of Ogden Nash. Let us see what does he say through this poem as a spectator. One infant grows up and becomes a jockey. Another plays basketball or hockey. This one, the prize ring hates to enter. One infant grows up and becomes a jockey. Jockey in the sense horse rider. So in this world, many kids, many infants can born and they may become anything that they want to be. So here an infant can be a jockey or basketball player or hockey player. This one, the prize ring hates to enter. Now another child may hate to be a wrestler. Prize ring in the sense enclosed area in which boxing matches are fought. Look at the picture. On the right side, you could see a ring. Inside the prize ring, a boxing matches or fought. So a child may not like to be a boxer and fight inside the prize ring. That one becomes a tackle or center. Another child may like to be a football player. Tackle or center in the sense playing position in football. So some children like to be a football player. But what does he says through this poem, Confessions of a Born Spectator? The poet talks about how people choose different sports in their lives, decide to become athletes. While admiring the talents of athletes and sportsmen, the poet confesses that he is glad that he is neither a sportsman or an athlete. He says in the last two lines of the first stanza, I am just glad as glad can be. He is very much happy because he is not a player. Here I am refers to the poet, that I am not them, that they are not me. They refers to the players. So the poet is very happy for being a spectator rather than a player. So anyone can be anything that they want to be. They may be a football player, they may be a hockey player or horse rider, but all of them are called sports person. But here the poet happy for himself not being a sportsman, but he happy for a spectator, for being a spectator alone. So that's what he says in the first stanza. He happy about himself for being a spectator rather than a sportsman. Second stanza. With all my heart I do admire athletes who sweat for fun are higher, who take the field in gaudy pomp. The poet admires the enthusiastic of the sports person. He says, athletes or sports person who sweat for fun. Of course, the promptitude of the players or sports person in the ground is to entertain the audience, to entertain the spectators. So some players play in the ground in order to make the audience entertain. Some players can play for money, higher in the sense money, who take the field in gaudy pomp. Gaudy pomp in the sense showy dress, dark and bright dresses the players used to wear when they come to the ground. So seeing the players with the gaudy pomp, and they sweat for fun and higher. So they are playing for fun, they are playing for making the audience entertain, and some players playing for money. So seeing the players in the ground with a colorful dress, he really admires seeing the players, and maim each other as they romp. My limp and baseful spirit feeds on other people's heroic deeds. Maim in the sense injure, romp in the sense players play in a rough and noisy way. My limp. Here limp means weak, the poet's weakness, and baseful spirit feeds. And reluctant, not willing. He is not willing to play in the ground. He is not willing to be a player. And other people's heroic deeds. The writer, the poet, happy and admires on the players who are in the ground and seeing their rough and noisy way of their playing. But also he confesses that he is glad that he is neither a sportsman nor an athlete, because children have different aims and wish to play various games. Each child has in mind something in particular, but the narrator is glad that he is not one of the players. Though the narrator admires the talents of the athletes, he derives satisfaction from watching them, but does not wish to exchange places with them. So he enjoys the heroic deeds, the action, courageous action of the players. So seeing the courageous action of the players in the ground, he really admires. And watching the rough and nicely way of playing by the players, he also admires that too. But he does not want to be a player for that. Third stanza. Now, A runs 90 yards to score. B knocks the champion to the floor, cracking vertebrae and spines. Here the poet compares two players as A and B. A runs 90 yards to score. Yes, to score in the sense to win the game. Yards. Measuring unit 3 feet. So in and around that yard circle, you may take football ground, cricket ground, or whatsoever that ground. Okay, A runs 90 yards to score. Actually, a player, one who is running to win his game. But on the other hand, B, another player called B, knocks the champion to the floor, which means in order to win the game, the other player can knock the champion to the floor. So here what does he convey? To win the game, we don't want to consider anything with the player who else to wants to win the game. He doesn't want to consider the other player and his position and his feelings. The only thing is what to do. He wants to do here is he wants to focus his destination. And in the middle, B knocks the champion to the floor, cracking vertebra on spines. Sometimes it may cause some damages to the champion, which means he can be broken or cracked his vertebra and spines. Vertebra in the sense spinal bones. So during the game, while playing in a rough way, harshly, among the players, some clashes, something would be happen that would cause the champion to be broken his spinal bones. Lashes his steed across the line. You would think my ego it would please to swap position with one of these. Lashes, which means beat with a whip. So a horse rider can lash his steed. Steed in the sense a large strong horse. So a jockey can lash his steed in the sense horse in order to make his destination before the player who are following him. He may beat the horse to reach the destination. So whip in the sense a rough, strong rope or stick which is used by the jockey in order to beat the horse. He says he compares the jockey. How does he plays in the ground on the horse in order to reach his destination? He beats it. You would think my ego it would please, which means he derives satisfaction from watching them but does not wish to exchange places with them. You may think, he asks a question, would you think that my ego would be pleased to swap position with one of this, to exchange myself as a player from spectator? Would you think my ego would be pleased? He asks a question at the end of this line. Well, ego, it might be pleased enough, but zealous athletes play so rough. Actually, the poet doesn't like to swap his position, to exchange himself to be a player. He says, but zealous athletes play so rough. Zealous in the sense enthusiastic. A player, one who is very zealous in the sense so enthusiastic. A player, one who is very energetic, keeping very energy himself. He may play so rough sometimes. They do not ever in the dealings in the sense to win the match. So an energetic player never gives up his position to win the game. So on seeing the zealous position, the energetic position of the player, one who plays noisily and roughly in the ground, on seeing the player, the poet doesn't want to be a player, but he likes the zealous of the player. A player's enthusiastic, seeing the player's enthusiastic, he completely energetic to the spectator. Here the spectator none other than the poet. Consider one another's feelings. I am glad that when my struggle begins, twixt prudence and ego, prudence wins. Consider, think about another's feelings. So, in the game, a player never considers others' feelings. He never considers others' position. He thinks only one thing, that he wants to win the game. However, whatsoever happens, his aim is nothing. He aims at to reach the destination. He aims at to win the game. Whatsoever happens to the other player, he never minds it at all. But he considers himself. He considers his feelings alone. So the poet says, I am glad that when my struggle begins, twixt in the sense between prudence and ego. Prudence means wisdom. So when the struggle begins between the wisdom and ego, prudence wins. He says his wisdom wins, which means he likes to win the game alone. He doesn't want to see the position or feelings of the other player. So he happy about the position of the player in the ground. He also sometimes regrets that zealous athletes play rough games without caring for the feelings of their sporting rivals. He feels that good sense and caution win over ego. That's what he says. When swollen eye meets gnarled fist, gnarled in the sense rough and twisted fist. Fist means hand, holding position of a wrist in order to punch someone. That is called gnarled fist. When snaps the knee and cracks the wrist, when officialdom demands. Snaps in the sense breaks. So while playing, a player can snap the knee or cracks or the wrist of the other player. So he may be broken something in his spots. So that time the officialdom calls out. Officialdom in the sense headman, a chairman. But here it refers to referee, a match referee. So finding a player who is being broken on the floor, the referee can call out a doctor. Is there a doctor in the stands? Stands in the sense stadium. My soul in true thanksgiving speaks for this modest of physics. Physic in the sense, the strong body of a player. So finding a player laying down in the ground as he has been broken by another player, the referee can call out doctor who is in the stadium in order to give him first aid, treatment. So seeing this, he's wholeheartedly, the poet says that the narrator wholeheartedly offers thanksgiving the modest physics of the athletes, because he can tolerate, he can bear up the troubles, the obstacles that to be given to him while playing in the ground, while he is in the arena. But if he were a player, he would not tolerate all the offspring, that nightmare, being a player. So seeing that kind of conditions, difficult condition of the player, wholeheartedly the narrator offers thanksgiving for the modest physics of the athletes. Ultimately, the last stanza, the athlete says, athletes, I will drink to you or eat with you or anything except compete with you. The poet here says, I can do anything for you. I can drink to you, which means he is ready to drink with them and shares food with them. Or he can do anything for them except being a competitor. He never at all be a competitor to a player in the ground. And he is ready to buy tickets worth their radium. Radium in the sense high priced radioactive metal. So the poet himself is ready to buy tickets for high cost. He is ready to spend worthable money for buying tickets to watch the games, to watch the plays played by the wonderful players, zealous players, to come to the stadium, to watch you game ball in the stadium. The poet is ready to buy tickets for valuable amount, and he is ready to come to the stadium to watch the player run and jump merrily in the sense happily, and reassure myself anew. Reassure in the sense comfort. He is very comfortable being a spectator and watching the games of the players in the ground. And new in the sense newly, that you are not me and I am not you. Again, at the last stanza of the last lines of the last stanza, he confesses that he is very happy that he is not a player. That's what he says. I am not you and you are not me. That you are not me and I am not you. Ultimately, the narrator is satisfied that he himself is not an athlete. So, dear students, Confessions of a Born Spectator consists of 6 stanzas with 6 lines respectively, with the rhyme schemes of A, B, B, C, C. So, all these 6 stanzas, through these poetic lines, the poet confesses himself that he is very happy for being a spectator and he is not ready to swap himself as a player from his position, being from spectator. So that's what the whole conclusion given by the poet through this poem. So what we come to know from this poem and his opinion, that being a spectator is kind of safeguard to him, because watching the players enthusiastic rough game, playing noisily in order to win their position, in order to reach their destination without considering other feelings. The players can play in rough way. They may cause any troubles to other players in the ground, as they have a kind of modest physique which can help them to do whatsoever they think themselves in the ground. So that the poet wished to be a spectator alone and not to be a narrator. So I hope you all would have understood what does the poet himself try to say. I like to conclude, I like to give you brief summary of the poem at the end of this session. In the poem Confessions of a Born Spectator, Ogden Nash talks about how people choose different sports in their lives or decide to become athletes. While admiring the talents of athletes and sportsmen, the poet confesses that he is glad that he is neither a sportsman nor an athlete. Children have different aims and wish to play various games. Each child has in mind something in particular, but the narrator is glad that he is not one of the players. Though the narrator admires the talents of all athletes, he derives satisfaction from watching them, but does not wish to exchange places with them. He also sometimes regrets that zealous athletes play rough games without caring for the feelings of their sporting rivals. Sporting rivals is their enemy in the ground. He feels that good sense and caution win over ego. Of course, good wisdom always get us win the game at any situation. The narrator wholeheartedly offers thanksgiving the modest physique of athletes. Finally, the narrator is happy about himself as being satisfied that he himself is not an athlete. So, dear children, please go through all the poetic lines after watching the video. That will be really helpful to you grasping the new words, vocabulary used by the poets in the poem. And it will help you to write it down the answer for the appreciation question behind the poem. So please go through the textbook and read the poetic lines one by one slowly and grasp the meaning also, and make it use of in word sentences. That will help you to develop your communication skill. Thank you for watching this video.